Today, we're diving into an absolute classic, a book that has changed millions of lives. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. We're going to boil down all that timeless wisdom into 3 simple but, wow, incredibly powerful secrets for mastering human connection. But first, let's start with something that I know drives everyone crazy. You've been there, right? You lay out a perfect, logical, fact-based argument, and the other person just digs in their heels. They won't budge. Why? Why do our best, most rational arguments so often fall completely flat? Well, according to Carnegie, the answer has almost nothing to do with logic or facts. We're playing the game all wrong. We think the goal is to win the argument, but the real key is to tap into what that person truly wants on a deep human level. And that brings us right to our very first secret, which Carnegie calls the folly of criticism. He basically argues that our natural instinct to criticize, to point out flaws, is maybe the single most self-defeating thing we can do in any interaction. Here's the core idea, and it's a big one. Criticism is useless. It doesn't create any real lasting change. All it does is wound a person's pride. It attacks their sense of importance, and it sparks this resentment that can simmer for years. It just doesn't work. Let's look at a really high-stakes example. You've got Theodore Roosevelt publicly tearing into his successor, President Taft, for his policies. He's criticizing him everywhere, probably thinking it'll make Taft change his mind. But did it? Not a chance. It just made Taft double down and get even more defensive. In fact, with tears in his eyes, Taft said this exact quote, "I don't see how I could have done any differently." See, Roosevelt's attack didn't open his mind. It slammed it shut. It forced him to justify everything he'd done. The lesson here is so clear. Criticism doesn't create change. It just creates justification. And hey, even the great Abraham Lincoln had to learn this the hard way. When he was a young man, he loved to ridicule his opponents. He wrote a letter that was so nasty, so insulting, it almost got him into a duel with broadswords. That brush with death taught him a lesson he never forgot. Never criticize people needlessly. So, okay, if criticism is out, what's the alternative? What should we be doing? Well, that leads us straight to secret number 2. To have any influence at all, you first have to understand the single deepest, most powerful craving in all of human nature. And this is it, the desire to be important. Now, this isn't just a casual want, like wanting a new car. Carnegie describes it as a deep, gnawing, and never-ending hunger. It's the very thing that separates us from animals. It's why we build skyscrapers, write symphonies, and chase our dreams. We all want to feel like we matter. To really see the power of satisfying this craving, just look at this number. Back in 1921, Andrew Carnegie paid his right-hand man, Charles Schwab, over $1 million a year. That's like tens of millions in today's money. Now, was Schwab some kind of steel genius? Nope. Carnegie said Schwab knew people who knew more about steel than he did. He was paid that fortune for one very specific skill. And here it is. That's the $1 million skill. Schwab's real genius wasn't managing steel. It was managing people. He was a master at making others feel important, at unlocking their absolute best through sincere, heartfelt appreciation and encouragement. But what happens when that deep craving goes completely ignored? Carnegie tells this one story that just illustrates it perfectly. Imagine a farm woman. For 20 years she cooks for her family, day in, day out, never gets a single word of praise. Then, one night, she puts a big old pile of hay on the table for dinner. Oof, that line just hits you, doesn't it? She wasn't crazy, she was starved. Starved for appreciation. And the truth is, we all are. We can go for days without food, but we crave feeling appreciated every single day. So that's secret number 2. Give honest, sincere appreciation. Feed that hunger. Okay, so this brings us to our third and final secret, the real master key that ties everything together. If we stop criticizing and we start giving appreciation, how do we actually get someone to want to do what we want them to do? Believe it or not, Carnegie found the answer in his childhood dog, Tippy. Now, Tippy never read a single book on psychology, but he instinctively knew the secret to winning hearts. Just be unselfishly, genuinely, over the moon interested in the other person. This right here is one of the most famous lines from the entire book, and for a really good reason. It's a total shift in how we see the world. The path to influence isn't about being interesting. It's about being interested. It's about flipping the spotlight off of me, and shining it squarely on you. Let me give you a perfect real-world example of this. So there's a salesman who needs information from a bank president. First attempt, he just talks business. The meeting is cold, short, a total failure. Then he tries again, but this time he does a little research. He finds out the president's young son collects stamps, so he shows up with some stamps for the boy. And what happens? The president absolutely lights up, talks for over an hour, and gives him every single piece of information he needed. Why? Because the salesman finally talked about what the president cared about, not what he cared about. So let's put this all together. These principles from Carnegie, they aren't just little tricks or tactics to get your way. They really represent a completely new way of life, a new way of interacting with every single person you meet. So here they are, the 3 big pillars. First, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Just stop. It's a dead end. Second, give honest and sincere appreciation. Feed that universal human hunger to feel important. And third, and this is the magic key, arouse in the other person an eager want. See the world through their eyes, and you will unlock a level of influence you never dreamed was possible. And that leaves us with one final, very simple question to take with you from all of this. It's not about what you can get from people. It's really about what you can give. So think about it. Who in your life, at work, at home, a friend, maybe even a stranger at the coffee shop, who needs you to see them, to appreciate them, to make them feel important today?